Hi, this is Father Joe Cisetti with you once again. You know, when you live by yourself and you have to stay at home all the time, it can start to feel like the walls are closing in on you. And if you live with other people and you have to stay at home all the time, it might start to feel like other people are closing in on you. But there is an escape hatch. My favorite poet, Emily Dickinson, says, "There is no frigate like a book to take you lands away. There is no big ship like a boat that can take you away without you ever having to leave your home." And there is a rich tradition of Catholic authors who have some very fine works that can take us lands away. Now, these aren't necessarily going to be quoting the Catechism or quoting Scripture or things like that, but these works are very Catholic in terms of their themes, in terms of other aspects of the whole story. And I'd like to share a few of these with you. First one, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien was a devout Catholic. Most people are probably familiar with The Lord of the Rings now because of the movie. This is Father Andrew's copy of the book. Tolkien said that this is very much a Catholic work, and you find themes in it of redemption. You even find an allusion to the Eucharist in it as well. So very much worth the read. Another British author, Evelyn Waugh, has a book called Brideshead Revisited. I read it on my iPad. Brideshead Revisited takes place in the first half of the 20th century. It concerns a British aristocratic family, and there weren't a whole lot of those, and it's a family that is rather dysfunctional and devout at the same time, worth the read. Okay. Another good book, The Betrothed by Alessandro Manzoni. After the Divine Comedy, this is probably the greatest work of Italian literature, certainly the greatest Italian novel, very significant even for the development of the Italian language. It takes place in northern Italy in the first half of the 17th century. It concerns a young engaged couple and all the trials that they go through, and all the troubles start because of the cowardice of their parish priest. Right? And then they end up going through an experience of the plague, so you could see some connections today. It would be well worth the read. Pope Francis has encouraged engaged couples to read this book as well. Honestly, it's very hard for me to recommend this book too much. It's not that hard of a read, and it is an absolutely marvelous work. If you're looking for an American author, Flannery O'Connor, 20th century Southern Catholic writer, and she saw herself as a Southern Catholic writer. She died very young of lupus before she turned 40. She has two novels, Wise Blood and The Violent Bear It Away, and two collections of different short stories. The first collection is A Good Man is Hard to Find. The second is Everything That Rises Must Converge. She also has letters. She also has a number of essays, and honestly, I think her essays are just as good as her fiction, if not perhaps even better. Last work I'd like to share with you is not a novel, is not fiction. It's a biography. It's very real. It's called Left to Tell by Immaculée Iligabiza. Now, Immaculée spoke at our parish last March, so just over a year ago. She was speaking, and so I said, I need to read this book beforehand. So I started reading it before Lent started. It said it'll take me a while to get through it, so this could be some good Lenten reading. It was so engrossing, it was so involving that I read the whole book in 5 days or so, long before Lent started. Immaculée was a survivor of the Rwandan genocide in 1994. She tells the story of having to hide in a very tiny bathroom. And she thought, how am I going to stay in this very tiny bathroom all by myself? Well, she didn't have to. because eventually up to 7 other women were crammed into that very tiny space with her. And she stayed there for 91 days, and they had to remain there in silence. So if you're feeling cramped at home a little bit, this might be a good book to read. Very moving. We have a very rich tradition of Catholic writing. We encourage you to take part or to read some of it. Now, there's also spiritual reading that we should be doing, and I'm going to be doing a video on that as well. But when you read a good novel, when you read even a good biography, it broadens the way you think about other people, the way you think about the world, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about God, the way you think about how God works in our world. So these books are very much well worth the read. And again, they can take you lands away without you ever having to leave your home. Now, in the meantime, let us continue to pray for one another and to pray for our suffering world.